Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happening Here. What is inmendham, sort of, kind of. Anyway, another edition of I am going to try to screw around with your perspective, what you're seeing inside your little gear turning head. I'm going to try to throw some crap in there that'll grind up and change how things function. How you associate words, what you associate, what you see. There's two ways to do that. You can do that with just some sort of intelligent conversation about how your brain works and how, thoughts and ideas should be connected. Just basic rational arguments I could make. And the other half of it is some sort of psychological crap, which, I don't even like the fact that that exists, that it matters, what images are in here, with me, and it matters what kind of gestures I make and how I look and all this other crap that'll either endear you in some way to something or attach you in some way that's going to be positive to my purpose. And so positive to my purpose might be you hating me, because maybe if you hate me enough, I'll just own your whole psychology and you'll just be totally obsessed with everything I say and everything I do, and then I'll totally win in the end. Some sort of crap like that. But yeah, I don't like psychology. I'd rather not affect you psychologically. I'd rather not communicate with you with psychological symbols that trick you in some way into voice. I'll be back. Alright, I appear to be back. Anyway, and so, I want to get to sort of a complex thought idea, something you imagine, a thought experiment, where you play out what is our circumstance here. See, you're probably existing and probably underestimating the significance of your existence, the significance of what's going on around you and what's going to take place in the future and how you're tied to that and all that kind of stuff. And I probably have underestimated it too, and I'm trying to tell the story of this important thing, being alive and having an opinion and drawing a conclusion, and how necessary we all are to some process of change and all that kind of stuff. It's really a big subject. You can't really just picture it in your head and say, I'm going to imagine everything that's important and, do all of the calculations and figure out what it all means. That's a lot to do in one video. It's a lot to do in thousands of videos. But regardless, that's sort of the effort, is going to be something like that, is to say you're in some place where you think these things and those things are silly. And the context you really need to always have, in your gear work of understanding, is a certain knowledge of what the hell's going on here. So I can tell you you're just an evolved fish, that can sing and dance. We're singing and dancing fish. And we're completely owned by cultural bullshit, whether your kids want to go to Disneyland or whether they want to go to the dog fight. Just depends on what you grow up doing, And the irony is all these things, people get killed for. People die driving to Disneyland. It happens. They get paralyzed. Can anybody make a rational argument that, well, that's worth it? No, it's worth making a few catastrophic victims, for the big fun of going to Balloon World or whatever it is, Dollywood, silly fucktarded wait in a line, world, busy phone world, you could just, it's all so silly in a way. The entertainments are so crude and stupid and arbitrary, it just depends on what your culture, if what the cartoon characters want to do, and then everybody imitates the cartoon characters, so you can make people hungry for knowledge, you can make people hungry for bullshit. That's a choice a culture makes. And if it's a clever culture, it figures that out and it starts creating incentives to be smart, not stupid, and you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, it rewards you for not being fat and not being dumb and not being all these, you know, walking straight and whatever, standing up straight. You know, it gives you rewards for that kind of stuff. It would make sense to have a civilization that does that, you know, that takes care of those minimums first, gets you functioning, you know, maximally in terms of taking advantage of what features you have in some sort of productive way and not some sort of silly way, you know, so you're not wasting your skills, you know, doing something pointless. Doesn't, you know, accomplish anything. You know, you want win-win. You want to do something productive and also enjoy it. And that's the kind of human beings we should be creating, and that's not what we're doing. So you can sort of understand that, you know, on a simple level, that's the simple economics of your existence, is just recognizing that you have a bunch of pleasures that are pretty expensive, blah, 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 and it's all because you've been brain distorted by growing up in a culture that thinks a shiny car means something, and all that kind of crap. But anyway, so that's a whole subject right there that I could try to detail and explain all the psychology involved. But let's just say you're smart enough to figure out, oh yeah, I get that whole psychology thing. That's all arbitrary. You know, it all depends on what I rub on the baby. Yeah, you know, what kind of crap I rub on it, and, you know, then it'll be attached to it for the rest of its life, and it's fucked. You know, unless it gets smart and figures out that that's all trivial crap. And even when it gets smart, it doesn't really get smart enough to undo that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, if I want to fantasize about my perfect little life, you know, it's going to be something silly, like, you know, golfing with the Swedish bikini team or something. You know, I'll just do that every day. Or, you know, the stewardesses from Singapore Airlines or something. You know, whatever the choice will be for the day. But yeah, I'm just going to be doing something, you know, based on what my life experience and the stuff I ended up becoming attached to or horny for. And, you know, there's not much you can do about those personal preferences, you know, whether you like potato chips or whether you like pretzels, you know, whatever. Chocolate versus vanilla, blah, blah, blah. All psychological crap. So anyway, what I was thinking about is a method of displaying for you, giving you something to ponder, was an idea I've always, you know, I've had for years about how you would convince Earthlings, or how you would judge them even, or, you know, a way of making a dramatic presentation that would make it clear what's at stake and how it's an important decision. You know, we're making a decision about whether a little rat universe is going to exist, an experiment in a laboratory. And the experiment's going to grind up a bunch of little mice, you know, and it's going to cause them all kinds of grief and horror. And you have to know that there's some purpose to this. I mean, what am I doing for the purpose of the experiment? Am I getting one mouse to Disneyland? Or, you know, am I actually accomplishing something? Is there some positive gain in terms of mitigation against some disease, some negative that I'm suppressing by, you know, this less than profitable experiment on its surface? And so on the surface, you could say that the human experiment is expensive in the sense that things will suffer. They will endure horrible circumstances, ones I wouldn't volunteer for. You know, I certainly wouldn't be my preference to endure for the profit. I mean, I would say it's too much, it's too high a price to pay, blah, blah. You know, that would be from my personal experience in life. I'd rather not, because I don't value the fun of life as much as somebody else does, apparently, as much as many others do. And to me, it would already be a risk not worth taking. I wouldn't step on the tightrope because the prize you get for walking across it is $5, and the knives, you know, that you can fall into are not worth $5. You know, no way. I know if I walk it 100 times, one out of those 100, I'm probably going to fall. So why do I want to do that? That's just not going to be, you know, $95 for, you know, and then I got to go do that whole, oh, there's a big giant, you know, thing stuck in the middle of my chest. Or right through my eye. So, you know, these are just value equations, and they need to be processed, and we got to do it the best way we can in terms of figuring out how many kids should we paralyze to have Disney World. You know, I mean, these are real equations, you know. Some stuff we have to do, like you have to drive to the store and get food and all this kind of crap. I mean, there's practicalities you gotta, you know, but the fact is people die for this stuff every day. Every day somebody dies for lots of bad reasons, stupid reasons, wasteful reasons, useless purposes. And it doesn't make any sense, because if you were really going to build that, you know, if you were going to create it, you'd say, no, it's really not good enough to torture somebody for. So the analogy I've used is like going to Disneyland, and the truth is you have 10 kids, but one of the kids is going to be horribly sick and, you know, have a horrible time and just be awful. And, you know, would you still drive the car? I mean, would you still know, knowing what you know, that it's going to be bad for one of them, very bad? Would you somehow think this is a profitable, good idea? You know, something we should do? The difference is the other 9 that are going to be happy could be happy doing nothing. I mean, they can have, you know, it's all arbitrary. They can find something else to do. It really isn't necessary. The little happy joy thing. You know, if there was no Disneyland, they wouldn't really miss it, right? Just like you're not missing the Martians right now. You know, all your friends, all your Martian friends that you would have had if there was Martians. You're not really spending any time going, oh, woe is me. You know, I so miss my Martian friends. If you're a friend misser in the first place, which, you know, that's more psychology. See, I mean, I could make these videos by going, hey, YouTubers, I love you so much. You've been such great pals. You do so much. I mean, I couldn't do these videos without you. You're just so special. I mean, I could do all that kind of crap, and, you know, it's probably in the interest of the project. But part of what's in the interest of the project is being honest, and, you know, so, yeah. Yeah, can't do it. Not that there aren't a few of you, just so dear. Anyway, psychology. All right. So anyway, my thought for like a movie project or something, some kind of way of getting to the story would be to have an alien, you know, come to Earth. And the alien civilization has pondered all these big questions, you know, and they're not in space, you know, at the, whatever, the Star Wars bar, you know, where the elephant guy is playing flutes and shit. You know what I mean? It's they're not wasting their time trivially drinking green slime fun drinks, and, you know, they're just not doing any of that crap. They're kind of serious aliens. And so they've, you know, decided to take care of their responsibilities, and they've sent, you know, emissaries into the universe, and you know, with the prospect of trying to deal with this problem of, gee, you know, there's lots of things that can go wrong out there. Okay, obviously, you know, we can sort of understand that a little bit, that this process of evolution is kind of unintelligent. It's, you know, can do lots of things that are hideous and horrible, and maybe there's some rescue mission here. You know, if you rescue some of this stuff that's in jeopardy. Bad things are happening to good organisms, and we could do something about it. You know, police it. Like, that's a useful word in this context. See, that's more psychological stuff. You know, you can't even say the word police right now, because it, you know, triggers all kinds of bells and whistles go off, and woo woo woo. You know, we're in trouble, Commander. You know. Anyway. Idiots. Anyway. Jeez, so fucking stupid they are. Anyway. So, yes, I'm talking about intelligent cops. But anyway. So, missionaries. That's not a good word either, right? Right. Okay. So you got to find some other word for these emissaries, whatever. Foreigners to interfere. But that would be the project. So the intelligent race wishes to do what it can to help. And so, yeah, the idea would be, if the planet's just got a bunch of worms eating each other, it says, oh, screw this, nuke it. It just says, that's too stupid. No function there. But if the planet has something that has some kind of intelligent thing going on, they're playing checkers and stuff, or tic-tac-toe even, yeah, okay, let's check it. Let's go put them through a test and to see, and sort of the idea would be is the aliens would maybe kidnap 6 people, from Earth, that and those 6 people would be informed what the truth is. The best the aliens could do in telling them all the physical right answers about what the hell's going on. There's no God. This is what the real mechanics of the universe are. Here's a videotape of it. Don't be fooled by any bullshit stories. And then put it to those 6 people that you're the jury, okay, and you're gonna decide the fate of the organisms on your planet, and you're going to be responsible for it. We're giving you the power to do something, and now it's yours to decide, because you're intelligent enough to have the right to make a decision, whether you're going to impose this suffering, whether you're going to keep paralyzing children for Disneyland. It's going to be your choice, and whether the pain is worth the gain. And so the aliens are going to give the humans as much information as they can about what evolution is, and about how the universe doesn't have a plan underneath it all. We're just being manipulated by the slave master, in the sense that the nature has imposed inside of you a mechanism that allows it to intimidate you with the whip. And all it has to do is show you the whip to make you do what it wants you to do. And then it can give you no whip day. It can give you, or you can earn no whip points. So if you're a good little slave and you don't do any conspiring to escape, and you don't do any of these bad things, and you tell on the guys who are trying to escape, we can give you no whip points. Where you get a get out of whipping free card. And we can manipulate you, into behaving a certain way, because it'll be in your interest, and blah, 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 blah. And we can play with your psychology. But anyway, then that's all, this whole story about what it is to be a living creature, and that your gains are all superficial notions in your head of what you need. They're not anything called a real need. There's nothing... there's nothing compelling in the reasonableness of it. There's only something compelling in the biology of it. In that if I feel bad, I want the pill that makes me feel good. And it's that simple. And if the pill is in the form of somebody else's jeopardy, I might still take that pill, because I'm a selfish, bad person. And it's just the truth. And so so these 6 people are told all of this stuff over a period of a few weeks or whatever. They're just indoctrinated with, this is the real story of your psychology. What a piece of shit you are. What, the whole thing. And it's just, and the purpose is to say, okay, and once you know all these facts about how this game is, and that you're just a worm singing and dancing, I mean, it's really that bad. And that the real project of the worm in the first place. So this is another point I thought of, was you could have the alien life actually be one that was never sentient. It just realized how stupid it is to make a mess to clean up a mess. I mean, that there's no reason, say if life did evolve, and it never evolved a sentience, but it did involve intelligence. And I don't think that can happen, but whatever, let's say it can. Because you need a reward and punishment system really to do intelligence. But let's just say it can happen. It can acquire a volume of knowledge. It has some incentive to become more knowledgeable, outside of being able to use it to some advantage, you know, that has a mechanism, a personal gain mechanism built in. But anyway, and what if they never were sentient, but they just learned that, okay, we evolved from a biological chemical system that just attempted to cover the Earth, or whatever their planet is, Zextoid, and you know, and they just wanted to, you know, the idea was just cover it with us instead of the stuff that was covering the Earth, or Exoid. We cover it instead, and that's all the mission was. So you're just saying it's a worm, you know, basically it's developed to go out and steal energy so it can lay eggs, so more worms can take over more space, and that's all it's doing. It's just trying to change the white chalk into yellow chalk, and that's it. There's no other function. It's just saying there's a bunch of yellow chalk on the planet, let's just change it all into yellow chalk. I mean, you know, that's it. And so they figure out that they have no function, that the whole purpose is useless, that there's nothing for intelligence to do here except figure out ways to make white chalk into yellow chalk. And it's like, well, why would we bother doing that? We know that there's an equal sign between white and yellow. It's, you know, there's nothing functionally different. It's just one is a little different color, and it's, you know, it's just nothing important getting done. And so the life form draws the intelligent conclusion that, wow, there's nothing for intelligence to do here. This is really a stupid game invented by a very stupid mechanism. You know, the universe didn't have a brain and didn't think up this great idea. It's just a stupid consequence of the fact that matter got a little bit complicated, and so it could do funky things. And this is really stupidly funky. This is like, you know, sewing mouths to anuses or something. This is just a bad idea. Just changing the surface from white to yellow. So yes, they could, you know, but they have no, you know, like I said, they, you know, instead of feeling bad when something bad happens, they just have a statement in their brain that says a bad thing happened, you know, a little bad thing alert or something. But they don't pay any visceral price for it. It's not a bad event to see a bad thing happen sign. It just means that they have to put it into their logic and accept that a bad thing happened and a price was paid, and if the price is too high, then they have to do some other behavior. You know, it's just logic. Anyway, so you could say the alien race was that, and you know, and you could have the visitor in some kind of form. You know, that could, you know, they have enough technology where they can just make a cybernetic organism that looks just like one of us when it gets here. And you know, and we would be perplexed: is it real or is it Memorex? You know, what's it doing? You know, and that would be part of the catch. And the whole thing would be, as the story would play out, is in the end, yes, this is just a robots. You know, they're just machines. The machines decided that their project was futile, and they decided to help out, you know, civilizations that lacked the technology to do anything about it, to do something about it if they, you know, could figure out it was a bad idea to pointlessly waste existence, you know, to just pointlessly turn your planet yellow, for just no good reason. So they gave up on the project, and they just put the intelligence into the universe and just dumped it, and basically said, look, this is all you got. You know, once you know all these little facts about your existence, there's nothing else to make. There's nothing else to build. You're kind of done when you know what the project is. You know, and you know completing the project's irrelevant. Just like the absent Martians. You know, and there's nothing to be accomplished, you know, except to go find some other mess to clean up, because you don't have to make one anymore. So you stop making messes, you stop cleaning up your messes, and then you go out and look in the rest of the universe for messes that still need to be cleaned up, and that's all there is. Well, anyway, it'd be an interesting thing. Then you have the idea of the conversation between the 6 individuals, because it's all on them. The whole burden of continuing the project or discontinuing the project is all on them. So all the pain and suffering and all the crap that will be endured through the continuation of the human project is all on them. You know, there could be some backstory about how your human race is failing, how it has all these unsustainable things in it, that you're going to have another war because you have all these horrible conflicts. You can't even deal with the fact that you're different colors. You know, you're just so fucked. You know, in terms of having so little prospect of ever becoming gracefully intelligent. You're just not going to do it. So why bother pretending that it's something, like I said, like the project has anywhere to go? All you're doing is creating warriors in some sort of war, you know, for the race war, for the culture war, for the money war. You're just creating somebody's going to have to be a soldier in one of those stupid wars, the virus war, or, you know, whatever. The don't get paralyzed going to Disneyland war. You know, you're just doomed, you know. So, you know, that could be part of the story, is the fact that there's just so little prospect of us ever being able to become efficient enough at being alive. If it had any value, if there was any point in turning the white chalk into yellow chalk, is there any real prospect that we'll ever do it efficiently enough to justify it, even if we had all the time in the universe? And you know, you can just see the writing on the wall that you're going to pay a really big price. So again, it's like one of these things. I could say, you know, here you are. I could put you 3 days before World War II, you know, officially begins, and you know, give you the power to just put it on pause, you know, and say, let's not do that yet. And you know, and then you're going to be responsible for hitting the unpause button, hitting the play button, and saying, okay, let's do it. I mean, can you really justify all of the crap that's going to happen? You know, to say that, yes, getting to 2020, you know, when we have spam everywhere and liars and cheaters running the world and complete bullshit, are all those dead people worth, you know, all those damaged and broken and suffering people, are they going to be worth what we're going to create? No. No, I don't think so. But anyway, that's all we can do, is make the arguments, you know, these, you know. And then key to all of this too would be some understanding that this idea of it's all on you. I mean, you're going to tell somebody else they're going to be a victim. That's the truth of it. You're going to sit there and put this short straw, you're going to pull straws and put them in kids' pockets. You know, I mean, you're going to be the one doing it. It's on you. And you're going to make that victim. You're going to tell that one kid in 10 or whatever that, no, you're going to have a horrible day. And too bad, because we're going to have fun. And, you know, we're just going to accept that you're not. And we're going to impose it on you. We're going to make you our slave. Your suffering will be, you know, you're going to have to be a sacrificial sufferer for our gain. You know, your pain, our gain. And, you know, go ahead and say those words to somebody. Go ahead and say the words to the victim. I mean, I want to see your brain, how your brain can do that and justify it with anything other than, I have a selfish notion, you know, I want. You know, it's not going to be a rational response. So anyway, it's a thought experiment. I'm just saying the exact rhetoric, the exact words that the aliens would use in arguing this case, and maybe they would play some, you know, little psychological games, you know, some reverse psychology, you know, try to bias the decision, or maybe not. You know, those kind of decisions are built into the storyline, but you know, it could be an interesting way of bringing up all of these important subjects in a context that makes them more interesting, because you're showing how it means something when it's so hard to make it mean anything in our lives. Our lives are just so distant from any power, any mattering, and any, you know, the system fighting the man, can't fight City Hall, can't change anything, can't, you know, it's just we're so distant from having real hard evidence that anything we do matters. Now, I would argue that that's another one of these things that humans fuck up in terms of their logic, that obviously it matters. You know, every soldier that went to the war, there was an equation there about his utility. You know, that there's a certain number of soldiers you could extract and we still win the war. But how many can you extract? You know, where's the lines? And then you get to this individual that was just critical. And if that person didn't go, the whole thing fails by some fact of circumstance, that there is a vital utility to our participation. And even though we can't see it as individuals, it's there. And we all have to play our little part. We all have to fly across the ocean and land somewhere and be part of something, or the outcome, won't be what we want it to be. So, as much as we can't see the importance of the role we're playing, the fact is it's there. We just can't see it. It's too caught up in too many interactions that will take place, little subtle events that somebody picked up the banana peel off the sidewalk and the fearless leader didn't slip on it and die, kind of thing, or whatever. Some vital thing. We have to be there to pick up a piece of litter. Something stupid. So that it's the purpose of me even thinking about it. It's just thinking about ways of persuading people. And persuasion, in my opinion, should just be informing people. And sounds pretentious and arrogant, but that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. Is that, they have wrong answers in their head. They have a fucked up perception of our reality, and they need to appreciate, understand that they are imposing, that the whole thing is not a victimless crime. Life isn't a victimless crime. Perpetuating it isn't a victimless crime. What you give birth to into the world will possibly be quite menacing in terms of how much it'll cost living things, how many sentient beings will have their little feelings hurt or in some other way be brutalized. We are messy, and even by accident, you fall in love with the wrong person and make all kinds of a mess. There's all kinds of ways to make a mess on this planet. And that's all kind of stuff that people seem to be ignoring as a fact, evading as a fact, as any kind of responsibility. It's like even, there's a simple political argument you get into about healthcare and other things. I mean, people think they're entitled, and, give me $1 million worth. Well, who's going to pay for it? Well, he is. So, that guy, and that guy, they pay for it. I'm worth it. Says you. It's just kind of funny. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take care of myself, and I don't have to accept the fact that I'm broken or anything else. Just fix me, whatever the price is. I don't care as long as somebody else is paying for it. I mean, it's just so illogical. It's all the thing, insurance, all these rackets that sit there and basically incentivize sloppy and reckless. They give people license to be wasteful. Encourage it, let's just say. They disincentivize it. That's probably a good enough phrase. So, I'll take a little pause and say some more stuff. Yeah, you should be back. All right. So I was just thinking now about how this, so much of this conversation between the aliens and the Earthlings gets stuck in this argument between fables about gods and spirits and souls and magic and unicorns and whatnot. Some mush, about a purpose underlying the obvious lack of purpose. But anyway, this argument with the fabulists, the many people think their fables are victimless crimes. Oh, I'm a good person because I fake believing in Christ and he was a nice guy, so that can't be a bad thing. Believing in a nice guy can't be a bad thing. Well, it's what goes with that story is, again, this underlying purpose in sticking heads through nooses and saying it's okay because I forgave them. Yes, I killed them and I brutalized them and I did all that crap, but I forgave them, so it's all okay because they're going to heaven. What? It's all okay because they're going to heaven. I mean, it's they've added a whole chapter, a whole bunch of bullshit to the story that isn't part of the real story. All you did was torture something. That's the bottom line. And you made victims and you endorsed the existence of victims. You paid, essentially, you put a quarter in the machine that puts something's head in the noose and hangs it. And you think you're doing a good thing because it's Jesus is on my quarter, and the machine says I love Jesus and therefore I'm doing a good thing. When no, you're just sending people to hell, so to speak. That's all the machine does. 9 times out of 10, it puts its head in a noose and hangs the little mouse. I mean, it doesn't do anything nice. So it's not some sort of harmless belief in goodness. Okay, it really isn't. It's not a victimless crime you're committing. So, that's sort of an important context to arguing with fabulists, is having them acknowledge that if they're wrong, there is something very important at stake. If they're wrong, okay, they've justified doing a laboratory experiment that has no value. It won't make penicillin. It'll make green tang, or something we already have, except a crappier color. And that's all it'll produce. So you tortured a bunch of mice to make green tang. I mean, it's just too stupid, or brown Twinkies or something, browner. Green Twinkies, okay, yeah, so, just not worth it. And, there's a real price going to be paid, a real World War II thing, a real blah, blah, blah. It's real. It's not fake. The suffering won't be fake. It'll be real. It'll happen. It'll be experienced. It'll be an event in the universe, and it's going to have your signature on it. You're going to be one of the co-signers on this little declaration of destruction and mayhem and pain and suffering. The declaration of there shall be suffering. And your name's on it, John Jackass. Right there in big letters. You're not doing a good thing. You're not doing it for a good purpose. Even the direct Declaration of Independence, it's kind of an ironic thing, is there are all these proud signers, but all these proud signers had huge hypocrisy because they just wanted to be the new nobility. Okay, they didn't give a shit about the common people getting a good deal. They just wanted to be the deal makers. They wanted to be the deal owners. And the whole thing was a bit of a racket. Sadly, it's just the way things are. It's a sad, pitiful, all the stories sort of suck. If you write the real story sucks because it has a lot of toilets and poo in it. The stuff they take out of the movies. Reality sucks. I mean, it's, and they just sit there and tell you a pretty story to make it all okay, or tell you a less horrible story, let's put it that way. They take as much of the stinky bits out to make it seem like, oh, it's not so bad. It's just a bologna sandwich, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to figure out what's in the bologna. So, you know, that's the task. And again, if it came from aliens, people would be like, "Whoa, you know, I'm totally fucked," you know, because I'm not going to be able to use this bullshit. You know, Mama, you told me there's a Santa Claus. You know, that's really not going to work against the aliens. I mean, maybe people would take the subject more seriously, you know, if it came from another source, except other humans. You know, the facts. Yeah, so it's just you know, this is the kind of thing you have to spend some time, you know, thinking about permutations and what the possibilities are and how the world can evolve and how the universe and all this stuff. And all these stories are part of recognizing the possibilities and then narrowing it down to the probabilities and the practical, and figuring out what role you're to play in trying to engineer this change in perspective. You know, what's going to cause culture to migrate to a culture that values fun, to a culture that values waste and pain and torture, and, you know, understands that it doesn't have a right to have fun on somebody else's credit card, so to speak. Somebody else paying the check. Somebody else's checkbook, if you want to put it that way. That we're not allowed to live our fun life at somebody else's expense, to grind something else up, to have what we want, and all those. I mean, they're just so simple as ethics. And these are all ethics that could be understood in some sort of psychological way for many people, I imagine. If other people were your clone, you know, if the jeopardy was to something you felt really connected to, you know, an identical twin or something, and you knew that your gain was going to be their pain, maybe you'd figure out how it's not a winnable game. That, you know, if I'm playing against myself, I can't win, because when I make them lose, it's going to be real. When they fall off the tightrope and I stay on the tightrope, I haven't won anything because I fell. Okay, it's just a fact. Just as much as I stayed on, and the price was too high for such a trivial gain. You know, potato chip. You know, tiny little crumbs of, oh, I'm having a happy time. You know, whatever those are in life, the happy times. I'm exhilarated and full of joy. You know, why? Well, I made a 10-foot putt uphill. You know, come on. You know, somebody's head should be put in a noose for that. Anyway, so that's the theme here. So way too high a price, paid way too unevenly, and just a grotesque absence of any rational perspective in terms of recognizing it's just worms singing and dancing while they steal energy from other worms so they can coat their eggs in the energy and lay them. That's all that's taking place here. There's just no good stories. It's a stupid, idiotic process of, you know, eat your twin to survive, to lay eggs. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's probably enough of a pile of stuff, thoughts, description of thoughts. I can't really give you the thoughts. I can only give you a description of them as they fly by, or as they flew by. I mean, I'm really telling you in hindsight what process my brain went through in terms of imagining something, and I'm giving you a little piece of the story. You know, I don't have the table and the walls and the doorways, and, you know, the alien is Joe Average, and, you know, blah blah blah, and but he's really a cyborg, and, you know, rubber skin, and I mean, you know, I can't give you all the details. I can just give you a description of the thoughts and the thought of how it would be an interesting conversation in the jury room with the 6 people after they have been forced to accept there's no God and there's evolution and we're just biological organisms. We're, you know, made to be selfish, but we have intelligence, so we can overcome that because we can do purely intelligent thinking. We can be purely logical. We don't always have to put what's in it for me. We don't always have to say that. You know, what's my advantage? No, that's not how we're made. We can do 2 + 2 without knowing. You know, if somebody tells you you get $1 million if you say 3, well, you can still know that, you know, I know 2 + 2 is 4, though. I can't know it's 3. So you get $1 million if you can know it's 3. Well, as hard as I can try to know it's 3, I can't know it's 3. I know 2 + 2 isn't 3. So I can't know it. I can't win the $1 million, blah, blah, blah. So our personal advantages and incentives can't really destroy logical thinking. We can allow it to infect it and try to pervert it. But I'm just saying, if you're honest, the truth is there to be seen. And it's only through nonsense where you can cheat and say something like, well, you know, my mommy said there was magical angels and she believed in Jesus and blah, blah, you know, she said, oh, I believed in gremlins. Well, I didn't believe her gremlin story because it has no use to me. But yeah, I bought onto that Jesus crap because there's an advantage there. I get to go to heaven and blah, blah, blah. You know, the gremlins weren't promising any heaven, so I found them irrelevant. I mean, it's this idea of selective belief in bullshit because, yes, one story is to your advantage and the other story isn't. Rather than any honest scrutiny of the facts to you know, get the right answer, to put 2 facts together and make a 3rd fact, not a 3rd piece of bullshit. We can do that. And that's the part of us that we all need to have a conversation with. So we need to be forcing each other to stay in the realm of reality. You know, not allow conversations to be wasted by just indulging in a bunch of obviously disconnected conversations about, you know, fables, stories, just made up crap, non-fact based bullshit. Alright, well, anyway, enough of the video. So yeah, I'm distracted by a million different things I'm working on. It's not really a million, right? So these are the kind of exaggerations, you know, people are guilty of. But yeah, it's just all of my time seems to be used, so I haven't had as much time to do videos as I'd like. Because they are kind of they work, you know. It's hard thinking and then attempting to narrate the thinking, to tell the story in some coherent way. Which you always go into the video saying, yeah, well, will I nail it or will I not? And this this is a 50% of my expectations, maybe. I got to some of it, but I really didn't get it. Didn't really make a good hammer out of the words. So I'm not terribly satisfied. So I need to try more. yeah. I'll keep practicing at you, and eventually I'll get it right. One hopes. Get it so perfectly formed, that it can't help but properly dent your fucking head. Excuse I gotta quit using that language. It's psychologically disturbs people. Frickin' words. Amazing the things that bother people. The blood and guts doesn't bother them, but superficial stuff like, oh, there's a stain on their shirt, right? I mean, their head's decapitated, their arm is all stripped to the bone. You know, their guts are hanging out, and they're like, oh, there's a spot on his shirt. Yeah. Shit. It's a funnily, bizarrely stupid world. So anyway, till the next time and such. Thank you for your attention. I can say that much. Nice.